What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast. Welcome into another episode of the Triple Play Fantasy Baseball Show, a proud member of Fantasy Points and the Fantasy Points Media Group. D. Mendy here, back with you guys for week 11 of the TPF Baseball Show, joined by LC, Doc, and Marty Party. Doc, you are back in the fold. How was your vacation in Colorado?
You know, it was really good. The altitude got me, but going to a game at Coors Field is crazy because the ball literally travels so fast. Like, I don't know how people field out there. There was actually a couple errors in the outfield.
Yeah, Doc was not doing well with the elevation. Said he probably ate only what like a mouse would eat, a couple bites of like a burger, and that's pretty much
We
it.
can just put it out there. I projectile vomited outside of Coors Field.
You said that, not me.
To about 100 people just pointing at me.
None of us were gonna put that out there, Eric.
I don't care. I embraced it proudly because I took a shot 5 minutes later.
Marty or Elsie, have you been to Colorado before?
Yeah, I've been to Denver a bunch, and I got to go to the Coors Field, and I mean, it's absolutely beautiful. I got to see them beat the Astros, which was awesome.
Did you projectile vomit outside the stadium?
I did not. I was able to keep everything in. But no, the elevation is no joke. That's why I didn't do any exercise, though. That's crazy. Yeah. You're a wild child.
He very much is. Well, tons of great stuff as we always have here each week. We've got a bunch of great stuff on the rundown. But before we get to the rundown, there is something I would like to bring up. I'm going to tell you guys a little story, and this is how it goes. There was once 4 men named Doc, Marty, LC, and D. Mendy. They decided to co-own a team in what is called a podcast league, which is where you take all the people that are in the fantasy baseball world and you decide to put them in podcasts against one another. Now, when you have 4 people on one team, there's going to be disagreements on draft picks. Very much so, where you could have 2 and 2 and be torn, and you don't know what you're going to do. Now, there was one particular decision that Doc and myself, very strong for. And there was one player that Marty and LC were very strong for. And before I even say the name, they are both, if you are listening to the podcast, they are both, I think, already know where I'm going with this. But for those that are on YouTube, we like to make sure you guys get the visuals. So these are the 2 players in question. We have one Sandy Alcantara, and we have one Lucas Giolito. Now, can you guess which side that Doc and I were advocating for this team that was once at one of the highest points in the league? I think we were like 1 or 2 or 3 for the first few weeks, and now we were like 25th. Can you guess who's wrecked our season, Doc? Can you guess it?
No. Is it player B, the one on the right?
Lucas Giolito? It might just be. I want to give you, both of you on the right, a second to defend yourself.
No, they shouldn't be allowed to talk.
No, Marty needs to talk. This is
really funny. When I came into the room before you guys were here, I said, Art, I got to issue a formal apology about literally I told him about picking Giolito over Alcantara. And when we went back and forth, and he was like, "Oh, that was on my side too." I was like, "We both need to apologize." So I said, during the "Bring Out Your Dead" segment, I will issue my formal apology. So here, I'll do it now.
Yeah,
I was wrong. You know, I'm coming to you as a man. I was wrong.
Where would Lucas Giolito rank on a 2-star pitcher, we think now?
Oh, is he
risky business?
Yeah. Spoiler alert for that. Yeah, he is. For next week, he's a 2-star pitcher.
Woof. I mean, and all in good fun, because Doc and I definitely made bad calls too. But this was just one I remembered, because when I saw all the Giolitos written for "Bring Out Your Dead," Doc and I were texting. We're like, we got to bring it up this week.
Yeah, we were on the same wavelength. We talked about it 2 weeks ago. We said, no, it's going to be a little bit longer. And then after his last start, we said, all right, we've let him get off with this too long.
It'll look really bad if Sandy all of a sudden falters and Giolito becomes like the Cy Young candidate for the rest of the season. But for right now, it is bad.
The damage is done.
Yeah, Giolito it's bad for sure.
And that team is bad too. So it's not doing very well. Giolito's not helping. It's not all on Gio, but he is not helping. He was supposed to be but he wasn't.
You know what? We took Lucas Giolito, Jack Flaherty, and what was it, Lance Lynn? And we think our
No, we didn't take Lance Lynn in that one.
Okay, well, we took Lucas Giolito and Jack Flaherty in like the first 6 rounds, and we thinking our pitching is going to be set.
Buxton's obviously Buxton. I will give myself credit. I took George Kirby, or I think I urged us to take George. I think it was like in the 40s something round.
Yeah.
So that helped us.
That was a good pick. We got a good Kirby pick out of that.
Buxton definitely has not been what we were hoping he would.
I mean, at least he stayed healthy for the most part. I didn't think we were going to get this out of him.
I should have had the team pulled up, and we could just go through some good and bad picks really fast.
But pulling it up right now.
I mean, why not? Yeah, I mean, obviously this one might be a little longer show, but it's all good because I'm curious what our podcast team is right now to the top of my head. I check it. Like, I know we have Lane Thomas on that team, and we benched him the week he had 3 home runs.
That's right. That's right. We have a really good infield. Our outfield is pretty weak.
The infield is DJ LeMahieu, Jazz, Jake Cronenworth, Nolan Arenado, and then we hop into the outfield. Fantastic. Juan Soto, Byron Buxton, Lourdes Gurriel, Cole Calhoun, Lane Thomas. And then we finished it out with Alec Boehm, Kyle Farmer, and Gio Urshela, who hit a home run today.
Yes.
But
I think the Gurriel pick was a Doc special there.
He's picked up. He's hitting better now.
He's not sinking you in any category. I know the power isn't there, but decent batting average, getting some RBI opportunities.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think that team is as bad as it is right now.
No, I smell a second half surge from this team. I smell it. We just need to get some healthy pitching. If Flaherty starts looking like a decent pitcher, this team is going to look a lot better soon.
Can we rename our team Second Half Surge? That always does well in fantasy leagues for myself. When I rename them Second Half Surge, they turn around. So we will do that right after this podcast.
Let's do it.
We need it. So, all right, without further ado, you know how we do. Time to get into the rundown. All right, players that wowed us from this past week. I had to start, of course, with the man, the myth, the legend known as Jon Berti. Right now, over his last 7 games, a 308, 357, 346 slash. And again, just as I say every week, remember, these are not going into today's game. So these are as of Thursday morning, these numbers here. And 0 homers, 3 RBIs, a run, 1 walk, 9 Ks. But here's the thing. Jon Berti, you can add 2 stolen bases to when I made this graphic. He has 19 stolen bases since May 27th, 21 overall in the season, which is first in all of baseball. And he's not a bad player outside of just the stolen bases because he's had 3 straight seasons of a under 25% K rate and a greater than 10% walk rate. He's somebody that if you picked him up in any roto league right now, holy moly, you just got the pickup of the year and you didn't even know it when you did it.
David,
Marty Party,
I want to take this one because he was a hitting streamer for me, and I lost out on him by $5 in Fab. I mean, what he's doing, especially the month of June, 15 stolen bases. He has 21 on the season with 0 caught stealing, so he's been super efficient on the base pass. 21 games in June. He has a hit in 18 of them, and he's been on base in all 21 of them. So he's given you the opportunities from there. He only has 10 RBIs, but he's providing a lot of runs, good batting average. And I just needed to reiterate one more time. I can't believe I lost out by $5.
You literally, if you miss stolen bases in your draft or, we're having a lack of them, he's literally single-handedly bringing that category for you. I saw someone call him like John Bertisi or like John Bermondesi. I saw someone do that. I forgot who it was. But he's literally that type of impact right now. And I don't have him anywhere. I wish I did. Art or Marty, did you guys get him in any leagues?
I do have him, and I think I have him in the triple players ball. But what I wanted to ask, do you think he's going to lose any playing time to Joey Wendell when he comes back?
He shouldn't.
I mean, I
feel
like
they will be here at the end of the month.
Super utility.
Wendell was hot. I think they're going to find space to play Berti. Because their offense has needed the spark, and he's been leading off for them and doing very well. So obviously they're liking what he's bringing. I think Wendell adds to the offense. They're going to find a place to him if he's continuing to do this for sure.
Berti's second and third base eligible on ESPN. So like we talked about, super utility guy. I mean, he's going to play. They're not going to bench him.
Shout out to Sammy Reed on Twitter, who said stole second base and then third base and then stole his heart. That's what he's doing to the fantasy owners out there right now, stealing their hearts with all the steals here. Let's go to our next guy here, Brendan Donovan. Over his last 7 games, 355, 429, 452 slash, 0 homers, 5 RBIs, 7 runs, 3 walks, and 9 Ks. He's got an over 13% walk rate and hitting every day in the Cardinals lineup, hitting 371 against fastballs this season. And honestly, somebody right now that looks like he could be good for batting average. I don't think he'll give you much power, maybe, 5 to 10 home runs, 5 to 10 stolen bases, but somebody that isn't going to hurt you in terms of what he can produce on the field. And LC, is he somebody that you think you would want to get on your 12-team league, or a team in your 12-team league potentially?
Well, I think that he's now, if you're looking versus a roto or versus a points league, I think Donovan is a great points league pickup for one reason, because his K to walk is very good. So you're getting most of the points he's creating. His BABIP's running super high right now. It's better than his best minor league season, but he did always produce good batting averages. He has little to no power, just as you said. But he's going to maintain his position in the Cardinals lineup. He's been hitting near the top of the lineup for the last few weeks, playing every day. But I think you're going to look at his batting average dropping in from where it is around 315, 320 across the season now to 270s, 280s. That's a good thing. That's a good batting average. But without the power, I wonder how valuable he is in roto leagues. I think in a points league, though, he's a valuable guy on your team. Yeah,
definitely. I think format context is important. So I 100% agree with you on there, LC. Let's talk about a really exciting player, O'Neal Cruz. And he had only played 3 major league games this season up to this point, a 231, 308 batting average, and slash line, 0 homers, 5 RBIs, 2 runs, 0 walks, and a strikeout. I believe he also had an RBI today, and that gives him, I want to say, he's had at least 1 RBI in every game he's played in so far in the big leagues this year.
Yep.
He threw a ball 97 miles per hour in one of his first games and then hit one 112 miles per hour. He's a legit 2020 threat, and somebody that in a dynasty league, like if you're doing a dynasty startup, he's going to go very early. He's tantalizing. He's 6'7", a cornerstone for the Pittsburgh Pirates organization as they start rebuilding here. And I'm super excited to watch this kid play, Marty.
Yep. Yeah, me too. I mean, his body type, I don't forget which podcast or what show I was listening to. But essentially he's Jaylen Brown from the Celtics out there. Like, they have the exact pretty much same body. It's insane what he's able to do, especially as a shortstop. So I don't know if I watched the game today where he made a full dive, got the ball up, got up super quick and made like probably one of those 97 mile an hour throws. He's a freak, man. He's absolutely incredible to watch. He's going to sell a ton of jerseys. Him and Brian Hayes. I like the future for those two. Now, we still haven't seen any home runs. So I don't know if we'll see, in theory, he should be a 2020 threat. I think I don't know if we'll see double-digit home runs this year, but everything that you are seeing from him, it's great. It's just that offense is so bad.
Yeah, and I think that team will improve over time. They have a lot of great prospects on the way coming. And again, like, he will be the cornerstone for that organization. And has the prospect pedigree. He's been in the top prospects over the last couple seasons, and he's produced in the limited sample size he's had and dominated minor league ball last year. So that's O'Neal Cruz. Another guy that's kind of interesting, Alex Kirilloff. Over his last 7 days, 333, 364, 476 slash line. No home runs, but 5 RBIs, 2 runs, a walk, 8 strikeouts, I believe 3 doubles also. He's coming in hot after absolutely destroying AAA. I mean, it was, I think, hitting close to 400, a bunch of home runs. Now, what's always been the big thing with Alex Kirilloff is his wrist and sapping power from a guy that is usually able to give you 20 home runs easy, especially just what he's had done throughout when he was in the minor leagues. You like to think that's in the past based off what he was doing down in AAA. And although he doesn't have any home runs, he is hitting right now with the Twins. Doc, is he somebody that you were trying to pick up in Fab if you saw he was on the waiver wire last week?
No, and it's just because I've been burned by him a lot. This is a guy that doesn't walk. He has a 2% walk rate this year as opposed to a 36.7% K rate. The power isn't there. I'm worried about the wrist. I mean, he injured it last year and then re-injured it this year. Who's to say that it doesn't come back and plague him again? He's one of the guys that I hope performs well for real life, but I'm just out on for fantasy until I see something else wise.
I'm the opposite. I think he's got a path to everyday playing time, multi-position eligible, first base and outfield. And I do think that he deserves a chance. I mean, obviously, if it's not worth breaking the bank over, but if you can get him for, like in $1,000 Fab league, if you're getting him for like 30 or $40, that's completely reasonable to me for what he could produce for your team. In a corner infield spot, outfield. I do think he's very much, if he's out there in anything 12 teams or deeper, I do think that you need to make sure you pick him up. Just my personal thought, especially as a Twins fan here. Let's go to the next player on this list, and Tyler Wells. Over his last 7 days, 11 innings pitched, 8 hits, 1 earned run, a walk, and 7 strikeouts. Has not given up more than 3 earned runs since his first game of the season, and has allowed 6 earned runs total in his last 21 innings pitched. This could be another flash in the pan, as we've seen it with Kyle Bradish. We've seen it with Bruce Zimmerman, LC. Is Tyler Wells in that same category where he's going to, at some point, just going to completely falter?
We've seen it with Tyler Wells this season already as well. I mean, you look at what he's done. His K rate is so far down. He's down in the 5s and 5 Ks per 9 range after being 10.5 Ks per 9 when he was relief pitcher. Hard to tell where that's going to settle. It's obvious that in his attempt to throw more innings, he's not able to get the strikeouts that he was able to get as a relief pitcher. The BABIP against him is way down, and that's something that you would expect to normalize a little bit. And also, I wonder, I am concerned. His high in innings pitch is 119, but that was way back in 2018. He hasn't come close to that since then. I am concerned about his durability as an arm. I'm concerned about his strikeouts, and I'm concerned about his division. But remarkably, he seemed to pitch his way into decent results. I don't trust him for very much at all, but I would pitch him. I would stream him against bad offenses. I just don't trust him against anybody decent.
That's fair, and I don't think I would trust him either. What's the old saying? I wouldn't trust him as far as I could throw him, and I do think that potentially could be Tyler Wells here. Is it wrong to say when we get to the next guy here, Jose Urquidy, the guy on his team, Yordan Alvarez, is the best overall pure hitter in baseball? I mean, he is absolutely nuts. He just hit another home run today against the Yankees and against Jameson Taillon, who had I think a 2.7 ERA going into today's start, 2.7, 2.8 ERA. And he's just, I think he leads all of baseball in OPS. And I know we're not talking about him right here, but I think he was the biggest steal in the 2nd/3rd round, depending on when you were drafting out there. Like, he is, as a hitter, just unbelievable. And he's going to be a 1st-round pick next year.
Yeah, I mean, it's either Trout, Harper, or him. I mean, pretty much at this point, as far as just overall one of the best hitters in baseball.
Aaron Judge, too.
Judge, Judge, absolutely. Yep, Judge needs to be in there.
I wouldn't put Devers in that category.
Not yet. Maybe never. But
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
keep faking on him. Keep faking on the AL MVP.
I mean, the interesting thing about Alvarez, like you were saying, he was a steal. You would be hard pressed to get anyone. I remember Matt Williams putting out a tweet thread about how this is a guy you should be going after. You should, don't the negative talk about him has been too much. And I asked him on Twitter, hey, what do you think? Do you think he could be your top hitter? And he said, no, I don't think so. I want to get more steals out of my top guy. Now, that is a discussion that took place all off season. And it's a dumb discussion, but it is worthwhile to ask, like, can you get like someone like Alvarez, who's really just a pure hitter without any speed as your first hitter? Obviously, if he's doing this, yeah, that can be your top guy, and you don't need steals from him.
And that was, I'm sorry, go ahead,
real
Marty.
quick in my Glarf draft, it was him or Teoscar Hernandez. Those are the two I was down to, and I was like, you know what, I need those 10 steals, so I'm gonna go with that. So, and I'm playing Jordan Alvarez this week in a head-to-head matchup. He was hurt all last week, didn't have any home runs. Now he has 3 on the week, and it's just we're rolling with the punches over here, man. You gotta love it.
He's fantastic, and
he
was perfect if you had a back third pick, because then you could use your first round pick on somebody else, and you could get him like in the early part of the second round. So he could be your second hitter if you took a hitter early, or if you took a pitcher as an ace and then you took him as your first hitter, and then you go for a guy like a Jazz Chisholm later on to try to like get some steals. He was perfect, and I had all my draft picks like in every league in that range. So I have him in like 3 or 4 places this year. And that's just when sometimes the draft works out well for you in those situations. So Jordan Alvarez killing it, but his teammate we have to talk about, Jose Urquidy. His last start, 6 innings, 4 hits at a 1.5 ERA in that start, a walk and 5 strikeouts. He has a 4.3% walk rate this year, which is one of the best in baseball, but a 5.99 expected ERA. He did have 8 whiffs on his 4-seam fastball of his 10 whiffs in his last start. I got to ask you, Marty, is a turnaround coming for Jose Urquidy? I know he's been dropped in some leagues. Are you looking to pick him up, or is that xERA still scary enough where you're like, I'm not touching him?
It's scary, but I think you got to pick him up. In a 10-team league, someone scooped him up right away when someone dropped him. Yeah, the xERA is really scary. He does not walk people, which is pretty much the only highlight of what he's doing. What scares me is his 17.3 K percentage. His inability to strike out people is always going to keep him from being elite. So you just got to hope that he can pitch around people. He gets a lot of called strikes, and that hopefully he doesn't leave anything out over the plate, because he gives up nothing but hard contact. So the blow up starts are always going to be there, but he's on a really good team. He pitches, at least 6 innings, usually somewhere around there, maybe north of that. So he's very useful. I don't think he's one of those guys you can play the matchups with either. He does really well against the great teams, and then he messes up against the bad teams. So he's going to be one of those possibly grenades at any time, but you have to pick him up just because of the wins and everything from there.
I disagree. I think he's at this point a streamer, and this comes from somebody that's beating the Jose Urquidy drum. He's given up 9 home runs in the last 7 games, at least 1 per game. He hasn't given up less than 3 hits in a game, and when he gave up 3 hits, he lasted 3 innings. Like, the silver lining is he doesn't walk, but he just gets hit around, and the K upside really isn't there.
Where would your cutoff be? Would you? He's a 15-team league. He's worth rostering.
I mean, a 15-team, he's worth rostering, but he's not startable because he's going to hurt your ratios.
But I think, Marty, weren't you saying he's matchup dependent? So if he's playing,
that's what I'm saying. He's a streamer.
But I think that's what Marty said too. He was basically saying, like, depending on the matchup, you play him.
Yeah, I guess I'm just giving up more on him, and this was my guy, so I'm willing to eat an L.
Yum 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 yum, tasty.
Ashby. Yum, 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 yum.
He's hurt. Being hurt is different than not performing, Doc.
I don't say he got hurt from the last game when he had like 1 good start. You took your victory lap, and he's been awful ever since.
His ERA is like low 4s, isn't it? Like
all right, let's pull it up right now. His ERA is
4.25.
4.2,
but 1.45 whip.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
Yummy.
I think there's plenty of time for him to turn it around. Much compared to Jose.
A 1-of-5 record.
And Tanner Houck is now the closer for the Red Sox. Go figure. I got like 5 saves, I think, over the last couple weeks too. And
he's on our team. Tanner Houck's a closer. He's on our team.
Didn't work out how I planned it, but he's getting us saves, baby.
And we need him.
Let's touch our last guy here. I don't even Winckowski. Josh Winckowski. I can't even see his first name.
It's Josh. I like how you make these graphics but don't know the person's name.
The thing is, like, you make them, but then like you see the viewers and like the time at the top, so it blocks the name for me.
Not
so,
if you full screen it.
But I should wait. Hold on. Why don't I do that? That's what I'll start doing from now on when this comes up, and you'll never know when I can't read the name. Josh Winckowski, over his last 2 starts, 11.2 innings pitched, 11 hits, a 1.54 ERA, 2 walks, and 5 strikeouts, a 14% K rate. That's ghastly. 44% hard hit rate. That's a Gangari, and he'll get to stay in the Boston rotation. Technically, they said he earned another spot. Did anybody think that was funny? Ghastly Gangari? No?
No.
I thought that was pretty clever. Are we interested in him at all? Is again kind of like a Tyler Wells, like regression's coming. I don't really want to be a part of that when it hits.
I think he's going to have a spot in the rotation just because the Red Sox can't seem to have enough healthy arms. So I would give him a shot based on what he's done so far. But just like we saw with Faedo, the blow up might come.
Yeah, he's a streamer.
Could be. If he was a 2-start pitcher, would you play him?
It depends on the matchups.
Big time.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Then we'll kind of leave it at that. And now we've got some players we got to talk about for, of course, our next segment here. Bring out your dead.
Yes. I have to find my slides for Bring Out Your Dead. There they are. All right. Everybody, here we are. You have all come to bring out your dead. We are here to rid your fantasy rosters of these terrible players. They're already brought up on the show today, and brought up many times in the tweet machine. Lucas Giolito, Britton, our boy Britton brought him up, and I love this one. He says, "That is all I have to say about that," and I read that like Forrest Gump. That's just how I do it. Josh brings up Giolito. Nick says it's time to old yeller, Mr. Giolito. Nick, I think you're a true fan. I think you're a true fan. That's a great old Boyd. And oh, bring out your dead. We got an old yeller, Mr. Giolito. We're gonna bring him out to the shed and make the boy shoot him. There's Dave McDonald wanted to make sure he brought up Lucas Giolito. Not only that, more people talking about Giolito. Now, this is from the Discord. Looky D wants to know, is it time to buy low? David says, get in the Discord. These are the types of questions you can get answered right away. David said, I definitely would. This will probably be as cheap as you can get them. I agree with that, David. David, you're still on the buy low with Giolito?
100%. I think any panicked fantasy manager is going to definitely take. They're not going to sell him for nothing, but you could definitely. This is as cheap as you're going to find him. So I would try to put some offers out there.
Yeah, I think that's a decent thought. I saw these fun tweets. Tyrone asks, have the Sox tried unplugging Lucas Giolito and plugging him back in again?
That's hilarious.
That's my fix everything move. So, but we got the Chicago White Sox fan Mike talking about how he's been since COVID. That is something that was brought up earlier in Bring Out Your Dead when Gio was brought up before. Gio has been rough since he got off the COVID list. So with 7 starts since COVID, 7.46 ERA. Our boy Tristan Cockcroft. Is he the one who sings? Should I sing this tweet? I don't know.
He does sing.
Yeah. Lucas Giolito has a 9.47 ERA in his past 5 starts. Even Tristan knows what's going on. And when Tristan tells you something, everyone knows. Lucas, you've been rough. We still want to buy low, but come on, guys. Marty and I are eating it over here for you, Lucas. Let's start picking it up. Let's see who else was suggested. Who else needs to get dragged out? The next person on Bring Out Your Dead is, Connor Joe. Bill Hammock submitted 2 guys to Bring Out Your Dead. This is the first of them, Connor Joe. Remember when he was a big hot pickup? Remember when he was a hot guy starting the season? Not anymore. 1 home run since the beginning of May for Connor Joe. In April, he was at 1.05 runs plus RBI per game, leading off. He has been at 0.67 runs plus RBI per game in May and June. Is he droppable? Well, Mike Curlin tweeted that he has sat 2 of the last 4 games, once against a righty, once against lefty, with Jonathan Daza getting some playing time and Bryant coming off the shelf. Connor Joe might be droppable right now. He might not be. You might not want to hold him. His playing time looks like it's going to be cut, and his average is still good. He is not producing power or counting stats for you. Bill, I think, also brought up Cesar Hernandez. Is this Bill? The slides come up slow for me. Yeah, Bill brought up Cesar Hernandez. Cesar, especially if he's not leading off. Yep, his 21 home runs from last season are a thing of the past. He has 0 this season. Power way down. Will he continue to lead off? If he does, his runs are decent, but his runs plus RBIs, he's not doing much for you. I think he is droppable. So if you're watching on YouTube, there is a beautiful picture of a drop of water to show
fantastic.
how droppable he is. Thank you. Ryan Ireland wanted to drag out Max Muncy and Whit Merrifield. Now, Ryan is a fantastic fantasy baseball player. He's the commissioner of the Canadian Earth League. He's also in the triple players ball. I think he picked in our league. He's probably doing better than at least one of you guys. But he brought up Max Muncy and Whit Merrifield. So Max Muncy hit a home run today. So talking baseball, this is a funny thing. This is Twitter. This is why you got to love it. They put out Max Muncy home run. He's really starting to get going. And I beg to differ. Just 24 hours ago, someone tweeted Max Muncy, a.k.a. Rally Killer. Max Muncy, when did he actually start getting going talking baseball? You get that blue check mark. You got to, with great power comes great responsibility. He was hitting 136 in April, 164 in May, and 179 in June. So, yeah, he's hitting 30 points better in June, but it's still under 200. Power's not there. Production's not there. I say you bench him now until he shows signs of life. He's on a modest 3-game hitting streak right now. Hopefully this is the sign you were looking for, but I still don't really trust him. I think that injuries are going to affect him all season. Whit Merrifield, tonight, before the show, rumors are that the Royals are trying hard to trade Whit Merrifield, harder than ever before. Watch for that. See where he goes. I did find a tweet that he was the worst player in baseball by WRC Plus in May 9th. He's still only hitting 232 with 3 home runs and 33 runs, 30 RBIs, and 9 stolen bases. He's giving you steals like you had hoped, but it's the 20th most stolen bases. Stolen bases are up this year. His BABIP is down. His ISO is down. The positive sign, his expected batting average, 282, where he's hitting only 232. Hopefully that starts picking up. Hopefully the power comes through. I have doubts about that. However,
I will say,
this is.
I'm sorry, LC.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say I have the best.
Please.
I have the triple players ball standings up, and we have LC in 7th place, which you've kept that kind of under the radar. You're doing pretty well in the triple players ball. I think you're 2nd overall in our league, and then Ryan Ireland's 14th overall in the triple players ball. I'm 26th. Marty Party is down at, goodness gracious, he is.
Thanks, David. Jesus.
Well, I'm gonna be even worse.
I was saving that. Marty's at 36, and holy moly, Doc, you're at 43. You're 2 up from last.
All right. Well, this is how bad my team has been. I have 4 catchers, and they're all on the IL.
Mitch Garver, Kyle Higashioka.
That's a rough go.
You also have
James McCann. I forgot the last one.
That's
like
a rough
10
go.
of my players, I think, are out for this season.
Yikes.
That's rough. That is rough.
You have Rendon.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
Rendon's a tough one.
Good old Lourdes Gurriel Jr. is on your team, though. You also have his brother, Yuli Gurriel. At least you stick home to family, Doc.
Hey, David, speaking of family, remember when you blew a 90-point lead to me on the last day of our home league?
Is that what we're talking about?
Well, you were saying, speaking of family.
I'm just enjoying this. I'm looking at his roster, and it burns my eyes.
Okay. While you look at his roster, I am going to tell you that this is Witt's third appearance on Bring Out Your Dead, a legit third appearance. It's nickname time for Witt. Multi-hit Witt is a 3-time dead guy. Now the Witt Merrifield nickname is going to be Outwitted. Outwitted with an H, Outwitted. And that is when a veteran stat compiler stops compiling. You've been outwitted by that compiler.
Well done.
So two nicknames so far. We have a Badu when a player you bench starts producing, and Outwitted when a veteran stat compiler stops compiling for you. The last person on Bring Out Your Dead, Giancarlo Stanton, cold all for the past week or two. Suggested here by Discord member Looky D with that great Gollum picture in his Twitter profile. Heck to the yes, he has been in one hell of a slump. He was 1 for 30, about one home run, 3 runs, and 2 RBIs since June 14th. He had not a bad start to tonight, though. 1 for 1, 3-run home run. I'm not sure if he's followed that up with anything. Hopefully, Looky D, this home run tonight gets him back on track and gets him helping your team again. Hopefully, there are less players next week to bring out your dead. That's all we have for this week.
Yeah, Giancarlo Stanton 1 for 3 with the 3 RBI instead of home run, but no strikeouts today. So good for that. And yeah, I mean, it's a big list this week, LC. I think more people are frustrated with a bunch of guys on their fantasy teams not producing as we get into the midpoint of the season here. Let's just quickly, really fast, go through team schedules for next week. The things you need to know: the Mets, the Diamondbacks, the Giants, and the Tigers all play 5 games. Mets, Diamondbacks, Giants, and Tigers. And then you have the Blue Jays, the Twins, and the Guardians play 8 games. Blue Jays, Twins, Guardians play 8. Everybody else plays 6 or 7. So just keep that in mind with those 7 teams in terms of roster decisions you'll be making for those weekly leagues. The most added over the last week, Brendan Donovan topping the list, added in 35% of leagues. Kendall Graveman, now the quote-unquote closer for the White Sox, while Liam Hendricks is out, even though he did not get the save in his first opportunity. He was used in the 8th inning. Zach Davies, John Berti, Sir Anthony Dominguez, Luke Voigt, Spencer Strider, and Michael Harris top the list there. Then we look at our most dropped. And again, this list usually is a big injury list here, as Anthony Rendon is out for the year again, and he was dropped in 47% of leagues. Corey Knebel, Tyler McGill is going to miss extended time now with his new injury. Hyun-Jin Ryu is going to have Tommy John. He's dropped. Steven Strasburg dropped. Edward Cabrera, who I believe is getting ready to come back. Bryson Stott, and Zach Eflin. So we had 3 Phillies on this list, which is, I feel like, a lot for a drop list to have 3 of the same players from the same team. So very interesting with that. Now, Doc, do you want to go ahead and take us some hitting streamers? Tell us about some here.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. Got to go back to my segment. I missed this last week. So, sometimes I try to go with the young people, but sometimes you just got to go with the vets on a hot streak. And that's what we're starting out with. AJ Pollock owned at 25.4% of ESPN leagues. He's hit safely in 11 out of the last 12 games, multi-hit in 8 of them. He's scored 11 total runs. Moncada is going to be on the IL for a while. And Tony La Russa loves his vets, as we know, by his lack of playing time for Andrew Vaughn until he was forced to. And he's been hitting 5th in a good Chicago White Sox lineup. That's going to be hopefully some RBI opportunities for him. The White Sox play 6 games next week. So that's the first person that you'd want to add. We're going to sandwich it in with Isaac Paredes. And Marty, does this hurt a little bit?
I mean, this is what happens, man. You give anybody to the Rays, they're going to do better than what we can do.
So he's in 0.8% of ESPN leagues. The name itself probably rings a bell. He was the main piece in the Austin Meadows trade. He had 3 home runs on Tuesday against the Yankees, including 2 against nasty Nestor Cortez. 8 home runs in his last 65 at-bats with only a 14.7% K rate. He's second and third base eligible, and Tampa has had a lot of injuries to their outfielders, so they were talking about him potentially getting some reps out there, which would open up more eligibility for him. And he's only had 193 plate appearances prior to this season. He's 23 years old, so I don't think it's too early to write the book off on him. He's somebody that I would add just because I think he's going to get playing time on a team that seems to get the most out of their hitters. And Art, you're going to love this one. It's Mr. Carlos Santana. Now, this is a points league stream. I just want to put this out there. Owned in 41.3% of ESPN leagues. His last 7 games, he has a 387, 500, 692 triple slash. He has a 347 OBP on the season. And this is why I said he's a points league streamer. He has 1 strikeout in his last 32 at-bats. So very seldom is he going to give you negative. And the Royals play 6 games next week. So if he's swinging the bat like this, hopefully he's playing most days.
Yeah, and sad for us people that have been waiting for Vinny Pasquantino to get called up because he's not making it easy with the way he's been producing recently. So Carlos Santana definitely deserving of being a streamer there. Now, Doc, I have a request for you.
Mm-hmm.
When you put your slides in, can you, instead of just doing copy of a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy, can you actually just name the slide, just like say 1 or 2 or something like that? Because I think at some point it's going to break because there's going to be too many copies of copies of copies.
Okay. All right. That's fine.
I'm giving you a hard time.
No, it's not aesthetically pleasing. That's fine. I
was wondering how many copies of copies could go before it would just run out and not work.
I'll just put copy sign 10.
Yeah, there you go. Copy to the 10th power. All right, Marty, you want to go ahead and tell us about some 2-start pitchers this week?
Oh, yeah.
I'm so happy to be back to do this again. Doc, I miss you and your trolling. Britton's too nice of a dude. He didn't lay into me enough. So
to be fair, I also agreed with a lot of your picks last time.
Well, I mean, they're great picks. I mean, it just makes sense to me.
Okay,
as always, these are the 2-start pitchers coming up. This will be week 13. So we're moving along this year pretty quickly. As always, we start off with Glenn Stefani and the No Doubters. These are the guys you're going to be playing pretty much no matter what. Zach Wheeler versus the Braves versus Cardinals. Clayton Kershaw at Colorado versus San Diego. Robbie Ray, you got to play him. Baltimore, Oakland. Tyler Anderson, he has made it to the No Doubter list against all odds and against all xERA and all those other stats. At Colorado versus San Diego. The vet, Adam Wainwright, continues just to do it. First, the Marlins at Philly. Frankie Montas had wow, what an amazing day today. He went 8 no-hit innings, and then he eventually lost because the Athletics are terrible. But he's at New York, and then at the Mariners. Miles Michaelis versus Miami, at Philly. Kevin Gossman versus Boston versus Tampa Bay. And Sonny Gray, your boy, David. He's doing really well, actually. All his stats look good. He's got a really good schedule this week versus the Guardians, or at the Guardians versus Baltimore. So those are the No Doubters. Well. Say what?
Yeah, he's pitching well.
Yeah. Yep. This is what the Twins wanted out of him when they got him.
I can't believe Tyler Anderson is a no doubter, but I can believe Miles Michaelis is. He got upgraded. Continue.
He got the upgrade. He's been great. There's no doubt about it. And Anderson, I mean, he's doing it every single week. There's just no way you're not going to start him. You know, you're not going to start him. Am I right? So moving on, these are the why nots. These are pretty much like you drafted them early or they've come on quick and, you know, they're doing pretty well. So you're going to play these guys as well, but they're not elite aces. So there's obviously a little bit more leeway here. But yeah, starting with Pablo Lopez, who I put the beautiful picture of him in those powder blue jerseys. Those are one of my favorite jerseys in baseball. First, the Cardinals at Washington. Charlie Morton, he's making a turnaround. The old vet is finally starting to feel himself. First, Phillies at Cincy. Eric Lauer at Rays at Pittsburgh. Jamison Tyone continues to do it versus Oakland at the Guardians. Jordan Montgomery versus Oakland at the Guardians as well. Luis Garcia at Mets versus the Angels. And the Angels are one of the worst hitting teams over the last month, especially against right-handers. So do not be afraid of those few all-stars when you actually get down to it. They're in WRC+, they're like, I think they're around 24. It's pretty brutal. Luis Castillo at the Cubs versus the Braves, and George Kirby. We were just talking about him. He's been doing really well. Versus Baltimore, versus Oakland, 2 really good matchups there. Here's my favorite segment, as always, the risky business. So these are the guys that, unless you're like in a 15-team league, or you're pretty desperate, you need counting stats, or you're feeling lucky, these are the guys you'd probably want to stay away from. But at some point, I can understand why you'd have to play them. Starting with my boy, unfortunately, Tariq Skubal, who was once a must start. He has fallen from grace. Versus the Giants, or at Giants versus KC. Michael Wacha at Blue Jays at Chicago Cubs. Shane Baz versus Milwaukee at the Blue Jays. John Gray at Kansas City at Mets. Zach Plesac versus Minnesota versus New York. Keegan Thompson, Cincinnati, Boston. And Keegan Thompson, I was actually looking at him. He was almost a should start. So he's kind of like a sleeper this week. If you're desperate for somebody, I think he could do pretty well. And he has Cincinnati's hitting better, and Boston's pretty good. So the matchups aren't great, but he's been pretty good. Ross Stripling continues to impress, honestly, against all odds. Versus Boston, versus the Rays. Jose Quintana, I'm not going to lie, he was in the sitting category, but I did a little bit of digging, and I'm looking at Washington, I'm looking at Milwaukee, and Jose Quintana continues to do it. So playing versus the Nationals. And
I can't believe you put him having 3 things. Why'd you have to put he pitches for Pittsburgh? He doesn't deserve special treatment.
Just for everybody to know. I think that I think everyone wants to know, where does Jose Quintana play? He's been on 15 different teams. So, anyone tuning in, I just like to just provide that extra information. You know what I mean?
I don't think he's worthy of it, but continue.
Chad Kuhl versus the Dodgers versus Arizona. Tyler Wells, there he is, at Seattle, at Minnesota. And Lucas Giolito, I think I should be the one that takes him out back and, at the Angels, at the Giants. It's risky, but oh my God, you probably spent a 2nd-round pick on him, so you're probably going to play him. And then let's move on to, my slides have moved. Mr. Hansen, let's take a seat. These are the guys, do not play no matter what. Madison Bumgarner versus San Diego at Colorado. Devin Smeltzer at Cleveland versus Baltimore. I told you Jose Quintana was in the sit, but I changed it. He's not there anymore. Dylan Bundy at Cleveland versus Baltimore. Jalen Beeks versus Milwaukee at Toronto. Paul Blackburn, who, remember when he was really good those first couple months?
Yeah, those are the days, yeah.
That's dead. At New York, at Mariners. Tristan McKenzie versus Minnesota versus the Yankees. 2 of the best offenses in baseball right now. They're both top 10 offenses. The Yankees like number 1, but Minnesota's top 10 in WRC+. So watch out for them. And then Erick Fedde, it doesn't even matter. Don't play him. Versus Pittsburgh, versus Miami.
I disagree with that. You are
which one
on Fedde Wap.
Fedde Wap?
Yeah.
What stands out to you about Mr. Fed?
Last game at Orioles, 6 innings, 2 hits, 4 strikeouts. Game before against the Braves, 5 innings, 5.1 innings, 3 earned runs.
Yeah, he finished that game with a 5.06 ERA and a 1.88 WHIP. Thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah, but look at the matchups he has. Pitt and Miami. I think that's a risky business.
I don't like agreeing with Doc. I don't like agreeing with him, but I do.
I'm sticking up for Eric's, okay?
Yeah, just the matchups alone. Is that the best 2-step you could possibly get?
No.
Detroit and Detroit.
Actually, Oakland's worse. Detroit is 29th, Oakland's 30th in WRC plus versus righties. So maybe, yeah, if you're feeling Fedde Wap, go ahead. If you're feeling extremely risky, maybe. But for me, I'm sitting him.
Detroit and Motor City Bengals. Those are the 2 teams. I said Detroit and the Motor City Bengals. That's what you want to have stream them against.
Oh man, yeah. Erick Fedde is definitely a questionable one in the sense of like the matchups are good, but I agree with you normally, Marty. Like that, his profile isn't necessarily like fantastic.
Well,
but
Marty wants to take another
his
week
last.
off.
I'm gonna go over his ERA. So he had a really good start at Baltimore, which is now turned into one of the best pitchers parks there is in baseball. So keep that in mind. Before that, he 5.06 ERA, 4.76 ERA, 7.71. 40.5.
Talk about the teams he has to face, though. We're talking about it's risky business because of the matchup.
All right, so I have over the last 2 weeks, WRC plus Pittsburgh is 10th from the bottom. They have an 88 WRC plus against
Pittsburgh
right-handed pitching.
That's true.
And then Miami over the last 2 weeks against right-handed pitchers is 13th from the bottom. So they're about mid-pack, but they're a 95, so a little bit under average. But again, we will find out in a week.
Let me ask you this. Are you starting them in a 12-team league?
If I need the
depends who my
starts,
options
if
are,
I need the
yeah.
starts, yes. Like I this week in my 12 team league, I had 7 starters and we get 10. So he'd be someone like I would have picked up to start.
Yeah,
So
I honestly didn't think everyone would be coming out of the woodwork for Mr. Fedde, but you see it first here. I'm bringing up his StatCath. I know you don't want to spend too much time on this guy, but now that I've been questioned, I need to look. Oh my gosh. Oh,
the people want to know.
22 percentile, walk percentage, 21st percentile. He's not hard hit rate. Everyone's destroying the ball off him. He doesn't do anything well.
Once again, we're talking about the matchups, though. We're not saying he's a great pitcher.
We're gonna have to remember this for next week when he has his 2.
He's a bad pitcher. I don't care who he's playing against.
Art, where do you side with? Would you play him or no?
My thought is that Marty needs a picture that goes for why not? That's my thought. He's got one for no doubt. He's got one for risky business. He's got one for take a seat. We need a why not picture. That's my thought. I don't know what it's going to be. I'm not the creative genius behind it, but
I'm thinking like a Jersey Shore thing, like where they just like are like take somebody home with them, like why not come home with me or something like that.
Okay, I didn't know where you were going with that, but actually, I kind of like.
We can. That's good, David.
2 a.m. Why not? All right.
This was worth it. This was worth the week hiatus to have David question. They were agreeing too much today.
I know this is a weird feeling. Maybe we needed a week apart.
Marty probably wants me to take another week off.
Go ahead, Doc. Why don't you talk about some pitching streamers?
I got you, David. So the first one is Mr. Zach Davies. And if you're looking on the YouTube channel, I think this is a middle school picture of him.
How did you find a middle school picture of Zach Davies?
When you type in Zach Davies, the third picture is him and his former wife. And then this is like the fourth picture that comes up. There's, I think, one picture of him in a Diamondbacks uniform, and it wouldn't let me use it. So owned in 10.7% of ESPN leagues.
I literally typed it in right now, and it is not coming up.
I don't know. Maybe my computer just is different.
Eric uses Internet Explorer. That's why.
No, I'm a Chrome guy. I've learned from Art's mistake. Actually, no, I'm a Microsoft Edge guy. That's true. But gone 5 innings pitched in his last 5 starts, and that includes versus the Dodgers, at San Diego, and at Cincinnati. And he has 28 Ks in those last starts, so he's giving you a little bit of upside as well. He has a 3.96 ERA on the year, but he has actually a 3.6 expected ERA, which is the lowest of his career. And the last bullet point says, faces Tigers, enough said.
Would you start him, Doc?
Yes, I would.
Okay, I'm picking. I already picked him up.
Yeah, so great minds think alike. The next one is the non-sexy Marco Gonzalez. And normally I try to have it below 50%. He was at that yesterday, not today, but 51.2% now. He's had quality starts in 6 out of his last 8 appearances, and that includes at Toronto, at New York Mets, and versus the Houston Astros. He has limited K upside, but he's been very efficient in not walking batters. He has 2 or less in 5 out of those last 6 games. Now, the 6th game, he did walk 6 batters, so I do want to put that out there. But he faces the Angels, who scored more than 5 runs 1 out of their last 10 games. And they went for 11 runs, and they lost to the Royals. But they've been a pretty stagnant offense outside of Ohtani. Mike Trout was in a huge slump earlier this month. And as mentioned, Anthony Rendon is out for the rest of the season. And the last one, this is a risky business one, but Dylan Bundy owned in 19.3% of ESPN leagues. And he's flashed upside in favorable starts. He has a high ceiling, but a very low floor. The last outing against the Diamondbacks, 8 innings, 4 hits, 1 earned, 7 Ks. Started the season 3-0. And he faces the Rockies in Minnesota, who have a .239 batting average on the road and average 3.22 runs per game. So I'm thinking it's a favorable start for Mr. Bundy.
Dylan Bundy's like playing with fire. I don't know if
that's what I'm saying. He'll do a really great start for you, or he'll blow up.
Fair enough. All right, let's go now. Let's talk about our weekend warriors.
Let's do it. So I went pretty deep this week. Sometimes I skim the top, but these ones, I took the extra time, rolled up my sleeves, and we got some good ones here. So starting with Albert Almora Jr., Cincinnati outfielder, 2% rostered in Yahoo leagues. Over the last 7 days, he's hitting 267 with 3 home runs, 4 runs, and 6 RBIs. He's going to be at the Giants for 3 games, which isn't, obviously they have a more of a pitcher's park, and their staff's not too bad, but he's batting every day in the Reds lineup, which has bounced back a lot. Art and I kind of went into it before we hopped on, but there are some teams that have started to turn it around, and the Reds offensively are actually pretty good. And on the season, he's batting .287 with 5 home runs, and he even has 2 steals. So he's doing a little bit of everything since he's been called up, and he's extremely under the radar. Number 2, Christian Walker. He's still 40. He's only 41% rostered. I know he's over the last 7 days, he's 6 for 21 with a .286 batting average, 3 home runs, 4 RBIs. He goes against the Tigers this weekend for a 3-game homestand, and he's batting every day in the 4th spot. So I really like Walker this weekend. And lastly, Robbie the Gross Man. I swore him off. I dropped him in pretty much every league that I could. But over the last 7 days, he's somewhat turned it around. So he's only owned 24% of leagues. Last 7 days, he's batting .250 with 2 home runs, 6 RBIs, 4 runs, and he's hitting the top of the lineup of the Tigers. Obviously, the Tigers aren't that good, but anytime you're going to get those extra at-bats, and they're going against Arizona, which by my calculation is ranked 23rd in team ERA, and they don't do a really good job, and they walk a lot of people, and that's kind of where Robbie stands out. So if you're in any type of like OBP league, you definitely fire up Grossman, and I think he's going to be good for this weekend as well. Moving to the pitchers, Josh Winckowski. We already talked about him. Boston, 7% rostered. He's at Cleveland for a Saturday night. So you did ask me, D-Mendy, would I start him? And I said it depends on the matchup. For this weekend, I like it. I would roll him out there. Over his last 2 starts, 11.2 innings. He has a 1.54 ERA, 1.11 WHIP. He's won both games. He doesn't get a lot of strikeouts, but it is what it is. Number 2 is Bo Brisky from the Detroit Tigers, 4% rostered, and he goes against the Diamondbacks. Over his last 17 innings, he has a 2.04 ERA and a 1.02 WHIP. Only 12 strikeouts, but he basically isn't walking anybody. Now, when you look at his expected ERA, regression is coming, and it's going to be probably one of those Alex Faedo days, but I don't think that's going to be the Diamondbacks. And then number 3 was my sleeper from last week, JT Brubaker. He just came off a really good start against the Cubs, 8% rostered, and he's at Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is not hitting the ball well at all. They're ranked 20th overall in WRC plus versus righties this year. And just to give that some context, the Baltimore Orioles are currently the Washington Nationals are a better offense right now than the Tampa Bay Rays. So JT Brubaker versus the Rays in Tampa. I like that start.
A Tiger, a Pirate on there. Very ballsy, Marty, but I can respect it. Both of them going into the weekend, especially for the fact if you need pitching, you need to pick up some players. Those are probably both on the waiver wires. Same with Winckowski too. So
I got deep, baby. We went deep.
I love it. Marty jumps right into the deep end of the pool. So that's how we roll here. LC, why don't you go ahead and tell us about some arts, charts, and some trends?
All right. So we'll see if this works all the way to the end of the show. I'm still here, in case anyone is wondering. Trends, I made it easy. Who is hot on the upstart hot teams? That's the trend we're looking at this week. And I'm going to start off showing you this great picture of Mookie Betts. If you're watching here, he's doing the bullhorns. Up to May 31st, 14 teams had a WRC plus of greater than 100, with the Dodgers leading the way at 117. Now, since the beginning of June, hitting has really picked up. And since June 1st, the New York Yankees lead a group of 20 teams that have posted a WRC plus greater than 100. And theirs is at a really incredible 145. Close behind them, the Toronto Blue Jays have a 143 WRC plus. If you're watching, I got a great picture. I thought, cool picture of Aaron Judge going right here. I wanted to focus on the teams that have really started to turn it up in June. The teams that have really increased their WRC plus from the first 2 months into June, the teams that have jumped at least 10 spots in WRC plus are Toronto, San Diego, Cincinnati, the Chicago White Sox, Baltimore Orioles, and the Atlanta Braves. All of those teams have jumped at least 10 spots in the rankings of WRC Plus, and they are all above 100 since June 1st. Now, if you're looking at these teams, Toronto, San Diego, Cincinnati, the White Sox, the Orioles, and the Atlanta Braves, you're going to wonder who's been carrying these offenses. That's what I wondered. So trends this week is which players are carrying the offenses that have turned up the heat in June and really started to produce. Of course, Atlanta's had that great winning streak, and Cincinnati had that terrible start to their season. So let's look and see. Atlanta's surprises, I'll call them surprises. Atlanta's breakouts in June. Dansby Swanson has a 174 WRC plus. Michael Harris, 180, and Adam Duvall, 141 are the top three on the team in WRC plus. Any of those guys are available in your fantasy league. I think they're worth a pickup. Duvall was a weekend warrior, I think, last week with a big home run or 2 weeks ago. These guys are definitely being suggested by Triple Play often, but they're producing now. Baltimore jumped from 26th to 11th. They were 26th in the first 2 months, 11th this month. They're big producers. Ryan Mountcastle raking 176 WRC plus in June. Anthony Santander, Trey Mancini, and Austin Hayes are all also over 138 in WRC plus. Great pickups if they're available in your leagues. Not available in most deeper leagues, however. The White Sox have 6 players this month posting a WRC plus over 120. They've jumped 20 spots from 25th in the first 2 months to 5th this month, best offense. Jose Abreu, Jake Berger, Danny Mendick, who has been replaced by Tim Anderson, so don't pick up Mendick, even though he was very hot. AJ Pollock, Luis Robert, and Andrew Vaughn have all hit over 120 WRC plus this month. Cincinnati, which really feasts on its home games. So if you get Cincinnati and they have a home schedule, think of it almost like a Colorado thing. Brandon Drury, Tommy Pham, Kyle Farmer, and Joey Votto have been leading their surge. So if a Drury is available in your league, he's probably not in your deeper leagues. Farmer is someone who I've picked up everywhere that I can. He's been hitting very well. Last season was his mini breakout for him, and he's continued that. San Diego also really jumped. Jake Cronenworth with a 190 WRC plus this month. Also, Jerkson Profar and Luke Voigt picking it up. Manny Machado had a really hot start to June. Of course, on the IL, we'll see if San Diego can keep this going without Machado. Toronto, of course, hitting 143 as a team WRC plus. I didn't put any surprises for Toronto because are you really surprised that they're raking? If you want to know who's doing the best for their team this month, it is Alejandro Kirk. So definitely if he's available, I doubt he is, pick him up if you can, though. These are the trends I'm looking at this week.
Always a great segment there. And you were with us the entire time, Elsie. This is a first in a long time. Very much worth celebrating. A couple things here before we end the show. Did any of you guys own Ryan Presley in a league?
Yeah.
He just gave up a 3-run home run, game-tying 3-run home run to the Yankees. And also gave up a single right now. So he just completely blew up. Yankees tied the game 6-6 against 2 of the best teams in the American League.
Chef's kiss to my team.
Wait, is that on your Triple Players team?
Probably. I have him in TGFBI now.
Oh yeah, that's gonna kill you too. So yeah, that's going on. The other thing I wanted to bring up here, shout out to Chris at Baseball Pods, who, if you're not following him on Twitter, he first of all is just a great dude in general, just knows a crazy amount about baseball and fantasy baseball, listens to all the podcasts out there too, and highlights great things about them. He sent me a question the other day, and he put this out on Twitter. He said, who are your top 5 favorite athletes ever? And then who is your favorite current athlete? And he said, sounds like this would be a perfect Triple Play question. So I said, we're going to make sure we read this one on the show. And so I asked you guys real quick. I know I didn't tell you ahead of time because I wanted it to be straight from the heart and not be able to think about it too much. who were your top 5 favorite players of all time, and then who is your current favorite player? So if you guys want a second to think, I can go first.
We all answered this, by the way, on our Twitter accounts today.
Yep.
Did you?
Yep.
Yeah.
Where have I been?
I have mine up, so I'll hop in first here.
Go ahead.
So number 1 is going to be excuse me. Long day. Number 1 is going to be Andrew Reynolds. So that is a professional skateboarder from the Tony Hawk games. So Doc gave me he liked that one there. Let me see here. Number 2 is going to be Calvin Johnson, one of the best receivers of all time. That was the most excited I've ever been watching a player play any sport is Calvin Johnson. Number 3, Chauncey Billups. 4, Matt Stafford. 5, Dirk Nowitzki. I love Dirk. And the current is Luka Doncic. He's my most favorite player to watch just currently. And I have some honorable mentions. Miguel Cabrera, Pavel Datsyuk, LeBron James, Steph Curry, and Mr. Justin Verlander. So heavy in the Detroit, but a lot of good ones out there.
I was going to say a lot of basketball too. Like you would think basketball is your favorite sport.
For like 15 years it was.
Are we going to do a crossover pod where we all talk basketball?
I'm down.
To be honest, to Marty's point, like I used to watch so much basketball growing up that I had to like be like, why is there like so many basketball players on my list? And I like, because you're like, you transition from that, but I totally get where you're coming from with that, Marty. LC, do you want to go next?
Yeah. My top player of all time is Andre Dawson. He was my favorite baseball player as a kid. 2, Michael Jordan. Never going to replace the elation of what he gave me as a fan of the Chicago Bulls. Mark Grace, great hitter. Jason Kidd, my favorite non-Bulls basketball player of all time. Loved watching Jason Kidd play. And Greg Maddux is my favorite pitcher of all time. So there's 2 basketball players and 3 baseball players. If I was going to pick a football player, I don't watch football anymore because it's just not something I don't agree with the sport anymore.
He took a stand.
Yeah, but Mike Singletary was my favorite football player of all time when I was a kid.
For those vaunted Chicago Bears and their defense that period. I totally get that. Doc, what's your list?
So starting out with Gilbert Arenas, and David, hopefully he's on your list.
I knew he was going to be on your list.
Yeah, have to. Tracy McGrady, the guy that really helped get me into basketball. From the college basketball, Juan Dixon. Growing up a Maryland fan, that was our first love for David and I. Alfonso Soriano, that season when he came and had his 40-40 was magical as an Ads fan, especially as they're suffering. Patrick Willis, the first 49er that really drew me in, and current George Kittle. Great personality, great guy.
He's your favorite current player of any sport?
I can't think of one that I have above him.
That's fair. I just didn't know that.
Is that a football player?
Yeah.
Oh, Marty, you might have to have your football card revoked.
Oh, I don't like football. I don't watch it. I'm with Art.
Oh, I really didn't. At first, I thought you watched football.
Maybe Tim Boyle just because he was on the pod, or Eckler, but I don't know.
Well, I will say this list, I should have maybe put Eckler in there, in mine. If not, he's close. I did have for mine, as I pull it up here, because I should have had it pulled up ahead of time. This is not in order, by the way. This is just my 5. Jamal Charles, who is my favorite football player, I think, of all time as it stands to this point. He's at the running back. He just made me fall in love with the running back position, and obviously played for the Chiefs, my favorite team. Paul Pierce and Gilbert Arenas, both my favorite basketball players. Paul Pierce, Doc can tell you I was obsessed with Paul Pierce. I had like 120 of his cards. And loved everything about him, but I felt like he wasn't recognized like the other superstars were. So I kind of liked that chip he had on his shoulder. Gilbert Arenas from being in the area. And then 2 twins, Denard Span and Johan Santana. Denard Span is my favorite baseball player of all time, and I don't think that will ever be topped, especially because I got the chance to talk to him one-on-one on the Triple Play YouTube channel. You can check that out. Even better, we still talk every once in a while too. So that's my guy for life. And then Johan Santana is by far and away my favorite pitcher I've ever watched. That 17 strikeout game against the Texas Rangers is something I'll watch a couple times a year just to relive those when he was just utterly dominant. And current ones, it would probably be Patrick Mahomes, just because he gave the Chiefs a Super Bowl and I love watching him play. But I also wanted to throw a baseball player in there just because I do so much football and baseball, and I thought about it. And I think my new favorite baseball player currently in the MLB is Bobby Witt Jr.
And we're not surprised.
That would have been my guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he just how much I touted him this offseason, and just for the fact that he's exciting and he's the Patrick Mahomes of baseball. That he's I'm gonna ride with him probably as my favorite player while he's in the league. So I think he's got that title for me.
You got to get the jersey, man. I don't believe it till I see the jersey.
I have to get more jerseys. I have
you can't wear them. They're impractical.
That's my main issue. I've started wearing obscure jerseys to random games. So now I wear my Oral Hershiser to Orioles games. And everybody's like, "Yo, this is an O's game. Why are you wearing a Dodgers one?" Like, I know more baseball than you. I can wear whatever I want.
Fair enough.
He's a personal, he's a personal friend of ours.
Yeah, that's right.
So, there you go.
One day he'll come back on with all 4 of us on there. That would be fantastic. We would have a good time with that. But yeah, that's going to wrap us up unless you guys have anything else you want to add. Of course, Marty, I know you do a ton of writing, as everybody else that listens knows that you're out there doing your thing. Anything you would like to plug to the audience?
No, I'm still just doing the 2-starts, 2-start pitchers for Fantrax each week. My biggest thing is I'm just happy Doc's back. I felt like there was a big void left, and him being back, it keeps us all on our toes, and we appreciate that. And a shout out to Art, who's since fallen off.
Art did have to step off a little bit early, but he always is. It was a pleasure to have him the entire show this week. We have not had the experience of that for his segment. But Doc, what about you, man?
Yeah, it's interesting. My friend picked me up from Colorado right as the podcast was starting, and he's like, "Wait, are you listening to your pod?" And I was like, "Dude, I haven't taken a show off in like 6 months." I was like, "I miss it." So, like Marty said, it's good to be back. One of the highlights of the week talking with you guys. And for everybody that just tunes in and listens to us or follows us on Twitter, comments on Bring Out Your Dead, joins the Discord. It's awesome. We love it.
It's a great community that we have in the Discord, and doing the show with you guys every week, something we've committed to. I don't think we've missed a week of shows in 2 years. I think there's been something on the podcast feed and now the YouTube feed every week for 2 years. So it's something we will always have, something every single week, especially with 4 of us on here. If one of us can't make it, we hold it down. So shout out to Marty, to Doc, to LC, to the entire crew, even the Discord behind the scenes that keep the fantasy baseball chat buzzing constantly all day. It's a truly awesome community, and we love all you guys. So thanks for tuning in. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube so you don't miss out on any times the videos drop on the pod or the YouTube feed. And LC's back. For the closing of the show, LC is back. LC, was there anything you wanted to say before we got out of here? We were about to close up shop here.
No, man. Thanks for everyone who's listening. Thanks for everyone who's sending some comments.
Awesome. Yeah, and if you listen to the podcast feed, it's always in your podcast feed, courtesy of the editor himself, LC, every single following morning. So shout out to him and shout out to y'all. So appreciate you guys. And for Marty, for Doc, for LC, for myself, we're going to make like a bread truck and we're going to haul these buns. We'll catch you guys